He built San Francisco's first hotel, first public school, first steamboat on the bay, and you've probably never heard his name. He owned 35,000 acres of land right where gold would be discovered. When he died, he was the wealthiest man in town, America's first black millionaire, one of the founders of San Francisco, and history almost completely forgot him. This is his story. His name was William Alexander Leidesdorff, and this is how one of America's most important pioneers was erased from the record. To understand how someone this significant could vanish from history, we need to go back, way back, to an island in the Caribbean. 1810. The island of St. Croix in the Danish West Indies. Today, we call it the U.S. Virgin Islands. This is where it begins. William Alexander Leidesdorff Jr. was born here on a sugar plantation. His life would be shaped by secrets from the very start. His father was a Danish merchant, possibly of Jewish ancestry. His mother, Anna Marie Spark, was a woman of African and Spanish blood. There was one major problem with this arrangement. His parents were never legally married. In the eyes of the law, he was nobody. But his father made sure William received something incredibly rare for a mixed-race child in 1810, a proper education. An English plantation owner took the boy under his wing. He taught him shipping, trade, languages, and one crucial piece of advice. Never reveal that your mother was black. Whatever racial rules exist here in the islands, they will not apply the same in America. In 1834, at 24 years old, William arrived in New Orleans. He became a United States citizen, and he thrived. Ship captain, cotton broker, owner of 12 trading vessels. By his early 30s, William Leidesdorff was wealthy and respected. He had money, he had status, he had connections, and he was engaged to be married to a white woman from a prominent local family. Everything was falling into place. His future seemed certain, and then he made a decision that would change everything forever. His mentors had warned him over and over, never mention your heritage. But William could not bring himself to lie to his bride. Just before the wedding, he told her the truth. He confessed that his mother was a woman of African descent. She was horrified. She called off the engagement immediately. Her father, she said, would never accept such a union. The wedding was permanently canceled. Some historical accounts say she died shortly after, perhaps from the shock of it all. We cannot know for certain what really happened. What we do know is this: William Leidesdorff sold every single thing he owned. His ships, his business, his home, everything gone. He purchased a 106-ton schooner called the Julia Ann. He loaded it up and prepared to leave New Orleans for good. And he sailed away toward the Pacific Ocean. He would never return to New Orleans again. That chapter of his life was over. His destination was a tiny Mexican village on the edge of the world, a place with barely 50 residents, called Yerba, Buena, 1841. After sailing around Cape Horn, through Brazil, Chile, Hawaii, and Alaska, the Julia Ann finally dropped anchor. San Francisco Bay stretched out before him. But this was not San Francisco yet. This was a sleepy trading post. A dusty village, Yerba Buena, Spanish for good herb, had maybe a dozen buildings, one dirt road, 50 people at most living there year-round. Most ambitious men would have seen nothing here but emptiness. William Leidesdorff saw unlimited opportunity waiting to be claimed. California was caught in a three-way power struggle. Mexico owned it, the United States wanted it, Britain was circling like a hawk. In all this chaos, a clever man could build an empire from scratch. That is exactly what William Leidesdorff set out to do next. He started small, trading hides, tallow, and goods shipped from Hawaii. Within months, he had earned enough money to purchase land. His first lot was at the corner of California and Montgomery Streets. Today, that intersection is the heart of the financial district. He built a warehouse there, San Francisco's very first commercial shipping warehouse, the foundation of a business empire to come. Then came a lumber yard, a shipyard for repairing vessels, a general store stocked with goods from across the Pacific Ocean trade. By 1843, Leidesdorff owned two 300-foot lots at Clay and Kearny, prime waterfront real estate in the town. But he was thinking much bigger than a few buildings. To truly succeed in Mexican California, he needed one thing above all: land. And to get a massive land grant from the government, you needed to be a Mexican citizen. So William Leidesdorff converted to Catholicism. He learned to speak Spanish fluently. He formally took Mexican citizenship. He played the game perfectly and positioned himself well. In return, Governor Micheltorena granted him a rancho, 35,521 acres along the American River. He named it Rancho Rio de los Americanos. Today, that land covers most of what we now call Folsom, California, prime territory. His neighbor to the north was a German immigrant named John Sutter. The two became business partners. Remember that name carefully. With his massive land holdings secured, Leidesdorff returned to Yerba Buena. He was about to become the most important man in town. 1847. This was the year William Leidesdorff transformed from successful merchant to legendary pioneer of the region. First, he built the City Hotel at Clay and Kearny Streets. It was San Francisco's very first hotel, and it became the social hub. Business deals were made in its rooms. Political meetings happened over dinner. It became the center of everything happening in town. He even hosted California's first minstrel show there, a reminder that even history's heroes sometimes have complicated legacies. Then he purchased a 37-foot steamboat from Russian traders in Alaska. It had been built as a pleasure craft for fur company. He brought it down to San Francisco Bay. It was the very first steamship that the waters of the bay had ever seen, a true pioneer. He planned to reach Sutter's Fort in 24 hours. The actual trip took 6 days, and the boat sank shortly after returning. But failure didn't stop him. Pioneers fail forward, and William Leidesdorff was nothing if not determined to keep pushing ahead. He didn't just build businesses for profit, he built institutions that would shape the city for generations after he was gone. He was elected to San Francisco's first town council. Then he was appointed as the city's first treasurer, real civic responsibility. He joined the first school board and donated his own land to build California's very first public school. Education mattered to him. For a man who valued education because his own had been so hard-won and so rare, this contribution meant absolutely everything. He even organized California's first official horse race near Mission Dolores. Steamboats, schools, hotels, racing, all from one man. What was William Leidesdorff actually like as a person? What did the people who knew him have to say about his character and style? Contemporary accounts describe him as liberal, hospitable, cordial, confiding even to a fault. A generous man who welcomed everyone. He lived in one of the largest homes in town at California and Montgomery Streets. He hosted lavish dinners for officials and guests. His house had the only flower garden in all of Yerba Buena. A bachelor, surrounded by beauty, building a city out of raw ambition. But Leidesdorff's ambitions went far beyond hotels and steamboats. He was about to play a role in one of history's turning points. In 1845, U.S. Consul Thomas Oliver Larkin had a secret mission: help bring California into the United States of America. He needed a man stationed in Yerba Buena, someone well-connected, someone respected by both Mexicans and Americans, someone trusted. He chose William Leidesdorff to serve as the U.S. Vice Consul to Mexico at the port of San Francisco. a critical diplomatic position. This appointment made Leidesdorff the first African-American diplomat in United States history, decades before Frederick Douglass served. This happened in an era when the vast majority of Black Americans were still enslaved, and here was a Black man representing America. Of course, no one in Washington knew anything about his heritage. If they had known the truth, the appointment would never have happened. June 1846. American settlers in Northern California launched an armed rebellion against Mexican rule. War had finally come. They called it the Bear Flag Revolt. A group of settlers declared California an independent republic. The situation was explosive. William Leidesdorff, serving as vice consul, wrote the official report to Consul Larkin. He documented everything that was happening. He also financed American soldiers with his own money. He translated proclamations into Spanish. He was instrumental in the takeover. July 4th, 1846. The Declaration of Independence was read aloud from William Leidesdorff's own front porch veranda. American troops raised the United States flag over the town that same day. The Mexican era in California was officially finished. January 30th, 1847. The village of Yerba Buena was officially renamed San Francisco. A new American city was born. And standing at the very center of this transformation was William Leidesdorff, builder, diplomat, financier, founding father. By 1848, he owned 360 lots scattered across downtown San Francisco, plus his massive ranch inland. His warehouse, his hotel, his home, his vast land holdings, all of it prime real estate in a city that was growing fast every day. By any reasonable measure, William Leidesdorff was now the single wealthiest man living in San Francisco. And then everything changed. January 24th, 1848. James Marshall was building a sawmill for John Sutter, Leidesdorff's neighbor and partner. In the water below the mill's construction site, Marshall noticed something strange glinting in the morning sunlight. Small flakes, gold. Flakes of gold sitting in the American River. One of the most significant discoveries in the entire history of North America. The discovery site was at Coloma, but the gold deposits extended far beyond that single location. They stretched for miles and miles. They stretched directly onto William Leidesdorff's land. The eastern portion of Rancho Rio de los Americanos sat right in the gold belt. Leidesdorff received word from the site. The gold region of your land covers the whole of the eastern portion of the entire ranch. Over $200 million worth of gold would eventually be extracted from lands that William Leidesdorff legally owned outright. He was positioned to become one of the wealthiest men in all of American history, a fortune beyond anything he could have imagined. And then, in the spring of 1848, just as his greatest fortune was about to arrive, William Leidesdorff fell gravely ill. The doctors called it brain fever. That was a catch-all term in those days. It might have been meningitis, typhoid, encephalitis. He was only 38 years old. He had been living in California for just 7 short years. 7 years to build all of this. 7 years to construct a fortune from nothing. 7 years to help create an entire city. 7 years. That changed everything. And now, just as the greatest gold rush in American history was about to explode, William Leidesdorff lay dying in his beautiful home. The timing was unspeakably cruel. 4 months after gold was discovered on his own land, fate was about to steal everything away. On May 18th, 1848, William Alexander Leidesdorff Jr. took his final breath. He was 38 years old. San Francisco's population at the time was barely 1,000 people, but on that day, the entire town came to a complete standstill. Flags flew at half-mast from every military barracks and every ship anchored in the harbor. The city was draped in mourning cloth. Schools closed their doors for the day. Businesses shut down. Commerce stopped. The entire community paused to honor their loss. As the funeral procession wound slowly through the dirt streets, minute guns fired steady salutes. Boom after boom after solemn boom. He was buried inside Mission Dolores Church itself. That was one of the highest honors any Catholic in the region could ever receive. His tombstone still stands there today, near the front entrance. You can visit it yourself if you ever find yourself in San Francisco. The entire city mourned a man they considered one of their founding fathers, a true pioneer who had helped build everything they had. But there was a serious problem, a very big problem that was about to turn William Leidesdorff's legacy into a feeding frenzy. William Leidesdorff died without leaving a will. No legal document existed to specify who should inherit his massive fortune. He had no wife, no children, no living relatives anywhere in America. His entire estate was suddenly and completely up for grabs. His estate was now sitting on top of a literal gold mine, and in the chaos of the coming gold rush, vultures were already circling. One man in particular smelled opportunity. His name was Joseph Folsom, and he was about to commit one of history's great thefts. Joseph Folsom was a U.S. Army captain and the first collector of the port of San Francisco. He understood exactly how the law worked. He knew precisely how valuable Leidesdorff's estate really was, and he saw a path to claiming all of it legally for himself. California had just become United States territory. Brand new laws were being written, laws that said only white men could be citizens, laws that specifically prohibited black people from testifying in court, laws designed to strip rights from anyone who was not white. Folsom traveled all the way to St. Croix in the Virgin Islands to find Leidesdorff's elderly mother, Anna Marie Spark herself. He showed her a daguerreotype photograph of her dead son. He expressed condolences, and then he made her an offer she could not refuse. $75,000 for everything. The 35,000 acres of gold-bearing land, the hundreds of downtown lots. Anna Marie Spark was a black woman with absolutely no legal standing under California's new racist laws. She could not fight back. She could not testify in court to defend her interests. She could not hire lawyers who would take her case. She had no legal options. She signed the papers. What choice did she have? Her son's entire legacy was signed away for a fraction of what it was truly worth. The estate, by the time it was fully auctioned off in 1856, was valued at over $1.4 million total. That is equivalent to more than $50 million in today's money. And that does not even include the gold that was extracted. Joseph Folsom became one of the richest men in California. A city was named after him, Folsom. His legacy lives on everywhere. Anna Marie Spark received $75,000. Her son built San Francisco, and his entire legacy was legally stolen. Today, when you walk through San Francisco's financial district, you might pass by a small alley. It is easy to miss completely. 2 blocks long, running between Montgomery Street and Sansom Street. Narrow, unremarkable. Most people walk right past it every day. That alley is called Leidesdorff Street, and that tiny alley is essentially all that remains of his once enormous legacy in the city. No major boulevard, no public school named in his honor. For over 150 years, not even a statue anywhere in the city. Just a tiny forgotten alley for the man who built San Francisco's first hotel, first school, first steamboat, first horse racetrack. In 1998, San Francisco finally installed a memorial plaque. In 2011, St. Croix held a bicentennial celebration. The California State Legislature officially recognized him as the African founding father of California. Finally, some acknowledgement. There is now a small statue and a mural downtown. 15 miles of US Route 50 bears his name, but his story remains mostly unknown. Leidesdorff's great-grandnephew Thor Kaslovsky said it best: "The shortest street in San Francisco is named for a black man who built it." His story matters because it proves something important. Black Americans did not just survive the founding of the West, they built it. If you want to see more hidden histories like this one, stories that truly deserve to be told, hit subscribe. Leave me a comment below. Because some stories are simply too important to stay buried forever, even if it took 176 years to finally dig them up.